I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox and welcome to this episode of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the leadership journey of our guest and what unique traits bring them to be the leader they are today. Who knows what we're going to discover together, so I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. I'm so excited. This is episode 1 and I'm here. I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox and I'm a leadership coach by trade. But basically I help corporate leaders to pivot their career, connect with their purpose and get what it is they truly want in its simplest form. And I'm here now introducing the first episode of Game of Leadership to tell you all about my leadership journey so far. Because of course, hopefully I've got many, many years to go of my leadership story. However, I've got plenty of experience and things to tell you about along the way. Now, this is the first ever episode, so let me just give you a quick overview of what you can expect from Game of Leadership. So each guest will stay with us for 3 episodes. So the first 3 episodes are all about me. How funny to say that. We rarely get to say things are all about us, but I thought it would be really important to introduce myself to all of you as the listeners, so you get to know me as your host when I'm interviewing all the future guests. So you're going to get to hear today about my leadership story. And in episode 2, I'm going to share with you my take on Game of Leadership, what that means to me and all the different things that I can think of that it might mean to others. And tell you a few of my favourite things that I've had experience of in terms of games along the way as well. And then also for episode 3, that will be where I share those real pivotal moments that make me the leader I am today, as a leader in my own business, director and founder of On Point Leadership, and leader of an employed role as well as a program leader for a coaching program where we support coaches who are learning to be coaches, if you like, people who are learning to be coaches. So yes, I have a hand in all sorts of different things, and I have to say I really love that kind of portfolio career that I have now later in life. So what questions are you all thinking about in your head to ask me? Well, please do feel free to either post below if you're watching this on YouTube or drop me a note on LinkedIn. All my details will be below the episode, and I will happily do my best to answer those around leadership. So where do I start? Well, I don't like to think of my leadership story as reciting my CV to you, because honestly, I think you'll just switch off and be bored stiff. I think I'd probably do the same. We're so much more than the jobs that we have along the way. So I suppose I want to talk to you about some of the inspirations that I've had along the way. Those people that have really stood out to me and made a difference to who I am as a leader. And then obviously a little bit about the different jobs I've had and how I've ended up doing what I'm doing now will also come into it, of course. But then personal stuff comes into it too. So you're going to hear a little bit about my life, because all of that contributes to where I am right now. So where do we start? Well, way back when, in the 70s. I won't say exactly when, because that'll give away my age. But anyway, in the 70s, Paula Wilcox was born. On a very, very sunny day. My mum always makes me laugh because she says, as I popped out, the sun was shining on my head, and I've always been of a sunny disposition ever since. So that always makes me smile when she reminisces on that story. But it's true. I do tend to see the positive in most things. It takes a lot to bring me down. That doesn't mean I don't have up and down moments. And we all know the importance of looking after our own mental health. And I am very sure that's going to come up in lots of our future episodes as we discuss different aspects of leadership with different guests. But yes, I do like to see the positive in life. So that was a sunshiny start to my life. And I had a very sort of, say, normal childhood. Normal as in we didn't have a lot. I remember Dad telling me a story about us not having much in for dinner. You know, when we were very little, I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 3, even 5, I don't know, somewhere around then. And we had vol au vents and baked beans for tea, because the vol au vents were in the freezer. If you remember that real 70s kind of cocktail party food. It's making me smile because vol au vents really aren't around anymore. I don't think, I haven't seen them for years. And a tin of baked beans. And I think we thought that was the best thing ever for tea at the time. And I remember my dad making such special fun teas, like it wasn't just Bovril on toast. It was Bovril on toast dad style that was made into a train or a car or a rocket. He really used to get creative with stuff. And, you know, so suffice to say, you know, I've got great parents. I'm very lucky. But around 6 years old, sadly, they decided to split. But years later, for both of them, that's been fantastic news. And here I am, decades later. I've survived the split and all is well. But I'm telling you about that because it will give you a bit of a foundation. And then, you know, sort of into teenage years, living with mum, growing up down near the south coast in the UK, sort of opposite the Isle of Wight, if you like, in various places along that part of the south coast. Beautiful, near the beach. I'm not sure I appreciated it when I lived there, but it was fab. So that's kind of where I was brought up, and had some great friends around me. It wasn't all plain sailing all of the time. As we know, growing up is tough. We all face different challenges, and there were certainly some family and personal challenges that went on as well. But again, all part of who I am today. So what happened then? I guess I kind of went to college like everybody did. I also wanted to go to university. Now, something not many people know about me is that I actually wanted to be an architect. I'm great at art, even if I say so myself. You know, got GCSE and A level in art. Absolutely love getting creative. And my daughter now has inherited that, I'm delighted to say, and is way more fabulously arty and creative than I am, which is super, super to watch. And I'm so proud of her already. Might tell you a little bit more about her in a bit, because she obviously comes along a lot later in life and in my story. So then I didn't get the grades I needed to go off and do the architecture degree. So that kind of was canned. And I left home straight into a full-time job up in the big smoke in London as a catering services person with Forte Hotels. Now I'm showing my age because Forte hasn't existed, or Trust House Forte as it was even before that, hasn't existed for many, many years. And I think Rocco Forte, who was the owner then, it was a family-run business, has Rocco Forte Hotels now, but I'm not really too sure. I've kind of lost track. But I spent 13 and a half years in the hotel industry, switching to Hilton halfway through. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I made some amazing friends for life. And I learned some really great practical life skills, as well as some of those leadership skills that you think about. And it's only kind of later in life that I've reflected on this, as in you come across some managers or leaders or colleagues that you want to follow, you want to be with. They really truly inspire you and impress you, versus those that are just naff. Naff's a good word. They don't inspire you. They're kind of the mood hoovers in the room. Everything they do is just energy zapping. I think you get the idea. So, two sides of every coin, of course. I experienced some of those back in that sort of 13 and a half years of hotel industry, and some of the best laughs and life building skills time of my life. However, I decided that shifts, losing my evenings, my weekends, and my major holidays like Christmas, Easter, birthdays with my family, I'd had enough of missing out on those things, missing out on regular sleep. I'm quite a, what's the word? I think the expression I'm looking for is my circadian rhythm did not respond well to night shifts, that's for sure. And I'm not sure there's many people out there that it does, except for our true night owls, of course. And I think I'm maybe hummingbird, but definitely verging on the lark side of things if you think about circadian rhythm. Anyway, so out of there and into PA work, and I was able to secure a role within Whitbread at the time, looking after the group HR director, who was also on the board. So that was a fascinating role, and she was, or is, the most fascinating person. And I won't spoil who it is, but I'm hoping to have them on as a guest on a future episode. So fingers crossed. They're a very, very busy lady. So I will see where I get to with that. However, she taught me masses. And, I talked about some of those inspirations at the start that I would share with you. It's a lady called Angie. She was and is still truly an inspiration in my leadership journey. I'd come from a role that I had between leaving hotels and starting at Whitbread that had dented my confidence massively, hadn't done me any favours. I was miserable. I didn't want to go to work. And I always say to Angie that she helped put me back together. And I mean that in its physical and mental sense. So yes, I may well share a little bit more about that on my third episode when I'm talking about my pivotal moments. So she remains to this day as one of my true inspirations. Then I went over to AstraZeneca. And yes, I'm giving you a little bit of context in terms of the things that I've done. And I started at AstraZeneca as an exec assistant to one of the direct reports to the CEO. Very different, huge global organization, pharmaceutical industry, if you don't know it. And masses of experience, and ended up sort of cutting my teeth on project management. I had a secondment from AstraZeneca to the British Olympic Association in readiness for London 2012. So I spent 2.5 years with them under the umbrella of AstraZeneca, but learning project management and project managing their preparation camp, which is the last place that Team GB athletes and coaches and support team, if you like, all go to before they transition into the Olympic Village to compete. That's where they get their final kitting out, their final training, their final rest and relaxation before going into that Olympic competitive environment. So very, very exciting part of my life, and maybe I'll do an episode on that another time. And I'd say Mike, who was the director of Prep Camp at the time, was a truly inspiring chap for me during that 2.5 years. What a great guy. We're still in touch, and hope he listens to this and sort of smiles when he hears me reminisce about it. So again, another fantastically inspiring leader in my development journey. Back to AZ, doing all sorts of senior leadership kind of support and projects for big events, global awards, the top 150 senior leaders meetings, the sort of leadership development program for the top 150 as well, in conjunction with Harvard. And then we did the next layer down in conjunction with MIT. So I've had some fascinating leadership development experiences in that sense. So I hope this is starting to build the picture of why I am who I am today. And when I was made redundant from AZ, that was my time to say, right, I want to coach full time. I want to create my own company. And that's when On Point Leadership was born, if you like, or created, or whatever you want to call it. And here we are. And obviously, On Point Leadership is the umbrella over Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. And it's my pleasure to be here telling you my story at episode 1. I think I've smiled all the way through this because it's just such a joy to be finally doing this, because it's taken me a while to get my head around A, what I wanted to do for a podcast, and B, having the courage and belief in myself to go and do it. And I've got a good friend, Darren, to thank for helping me articulate what it was I wanted, what I was going to call it, and how it would all work. So here we are. Thanks again, Darren. You're a superstar. Another inspiring leader in my life. And if I think about a few others who have inspired me along the way, my mum is definitely one. She was always super independent and taught me to be independent, taught me how to look after myself, how to run my household, all the things, how to pay bills, all that sort of stuff before you leave home that nobody ever teaches you at school, which would be super useful. She ran a house as a single mum, paying the mortgage, all the different bills, putting food on the table, running us around, me and my brother, all of that. So amazing woman. Enough said, as they say. Dad is another one. I mean, what an inspiring guy. He reached great heights in Lion's Made ice cream, if you can remember that. And they still have reunions to this day. And he's such an inspiring and entertaining guy. So he's always taught me, along with Mum, a great work ethic, and that support of people, being kind, all of those great virtues that help us be leaders. Because let's face it, knowing the technical side of a job is one thing, but having the people and the soft skills to be able to lead them, inspire them, and make them want to follow you is another thing. So, I credit mum and dad for a lot of that. And then there's one other lady and one other guy that I'll tell you about quickly. And one lady is the lady that I worked for when I first went to AZ. She was the EVP of HR and Corporate Affairs. Whoever creates these job titles, who knows? But again, Lynn was a massive inspiration for me. Talk about a woman that's gone to get what she wants, faced major adversity in her own life, and just truly inspired me in everything she did, the way she showed up, the way she behaved, the way she treated others, no matter what was going on for her. And I am truly grateful for having spent 3 years working very closely with her. And then the final person to date, because I know I'm going to come across some more inspirations as I continue on my leadership journey, building my story, is somebody called Brian. And I worked with him for the last 4 or 5 years of my AZ journey. He and I are friends now, but when we worked together, it was fun. It was tough. We went through major challenges together, but we were always there for each other, to support each other. And if I had to describe Brian, it was all about the fairness and the inspiration. He just was a natural leader and inspired me every day to be better as a leader and as a person, actually. And I'd say that probably across all of those people that I've shared that have inspired me. And I have thought of one more, and that's my brother. My brother is amazing. He works away from home abroad. His family are based here in the UK, so he only gets home every sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and doesn't really see himself as a leader. Although I had a chat with him this morning, actually, which always cheers me up. And he's had some recent feedback on a milestone that he's achieved in his role. He's an environmental geologist. He was always the one that had academic achievements coming out his ears, and it was hilarious because I was always the one with the common sense and he was always the one with the brains. I'll give myself some credit. I know I've got some brains in there somewhere. But Darren, brother Darren, this is different to the friend Darren that helped me get my head around Game of Leadership. Darren is just the best brother. We have the best laughs, share some great affinities, and super proud of him. And he continues to inspire me in my day-to-day and prove what's possible when you really put your mind to something and you can see the longer term goal for the short-term loss, if that makes sense. Long-term gain, short-term loss. I think that's right. Anyway, hopefully you know what I mean. So that, in a nutshell, I think is those that have inspired me, a little bit about my story, where I come from, the people that have helped shape who I am today, the job experiences that have helped shape who I am today and why I'm here today. And I guess the one thing I would add is when I was still at AZ, I was coaching informally for probably the last 5 years. People would naturally gravitate towards me. And I talked about those senior leadership development programs I did in conjunction with Harvard and MIT. That was really my first exposure to, even though I found an old PDP the other day that was or last year, sorry, that was from about 2 years prior to that, saying I'd like to be a coach. So I was already interested way back in 2007. Who knew that in 2020, that I'd be launching my own business as a coach. Anyway, those two sort of Harvard and MIT leadership program experiences had coaching as an element, and I really saw some exemplary coaching in action. I'm still in touch with quite a few of the coaches that were on the Harvard program, and I've received coaching from them. They're amazing people. I now do a mentoring program in the UK for one of them as well, the Protege program, and it's truly inspiring. So yes, just goes to show you never know what's in your future path, but if you want it enough, you can go out there and make it happen. So there you go. That's my story. And that is episode 1 of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. I'll see you on episode 2, where I'm going to share all about my views in terms of games. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're inspired to come back and listen again. Thank you for listening to this episode of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Why don't you now take a moment to reflect on what you've heard and see what resonates for you? You never know, there may be some golden nuggets in there that really make sense to you and you'd like to apply in your leadership. Who knows what's possible? We all bring that different uniqueness to the way that we lead ourselves in all walks of our lives. I'm Paula Eddy-Wilcox, and I really look forward to seeing you next time on Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Bye for now.